Hello everybody, and we're going to sort out the rest of these kale today, or at least most of them. All the rest of this brassica bed, it's either been planted out, moved on, i.e. given to somebody else, or composted, which is fine because the seeds to plant this were very cheap anyway. So in this brassica bed, as I said in the last video, 6-inch apart rows, roll across, just blast your seeds in, let them grow, and you get these plants and you can move them on. But what I'm going to do today is these remaining kales, there's two different types here, a black Tuscan and a dwarf green something or other thingy. I'm going to plant them over there amongst the tomatoes. And this does two things. The first thing is that I've got the bed outside already, planted up kale. There's about 20 plants in there. And that will, they're very hardy and the bulletproof kale. But on occasions through winter, when you get those real cold snaps, the ones where the ground is frozen all day and then the next night it freezes again, these will just sort of droop. They will just sort of fold over and become all limp and lackluster, and you can harvest from them, but they're not very good. They're not at their best. That's when I move indoors and take the kale from indoors that I'm going to grow in here. That should still be standing and should still certainly be in a lot better condition than the one outside. So that's what I'm going to do today. But first we need to do some prep work on the bed over there and explain how I've come to be to get to this stage. So this is the bed with my Crimson Crush tomatoes in. Now they're an early fruiting variety, and if you've watched this channel for any number of time, you'll have heard Crimson Crush too many times by now, no doubt. But this is what they are. They're two rows of tomatoes, one here and then one at the back. And because they were planted early, because I wanted the side shoots off them to grow these extra plants on, you can see extra plants all the way down here. These have got fruit on now, and I've just put them in the soil, grow them on and move them on, and I've got plants all around the plot from these very early plants. But because they were early, they've fruited much earlier, and because they're an early fruiting variety, and that's what I wanted. For the many reasons. I've picked a load of crops from here this morning, all the ripe stuff and a few cucumbers off the end there. And what I'm going to do now is, I also planted these tagetes at the front here, and this keeps the sort of the whitefly away from your tomatoes, and it looks nice as well. But I'm going to rip them all out today. So all these flowers, all these extra tomato plants are all going to be ripped out, and probably up to about 18 inches in height. I'm going to take the lower leaves off. About a week ago I took the very lowest leaves off, the ones that touch the ground. I took them off so I could get in there and weed, because I needed a weed in there, and the weed's starting to come back. So I'm going to up that canopy up to, I say, about 2 foot, and then I can plant that kale in between them. And while these plants are finishing off growing and these fruits maturing, that kale can be getting its roots down and getting growing, so that when the tomatoes eventually come out, have a kale bed planted ready for the winter. So it's like a crossover. You're growing two crops at once for a short period of time, and that's brilliant. And that, you know, these sort of things you work out over the years. Well, if I do that, it will grow up while that one's finishing off. So, and these plants will get topped this week as well. They've now reached, they're all the way up there in the grapevine now, so they need stopping, and it will concentrate. So I've got tons of fruit on here. These all need to ripen off, and yeah, we can get them off, and then we can move on to the other tomatoes. So that's what I'm going to do today. We'll crack on with that now.
Don't want to sleep tonight at all. Just wanna watch them stars fall with you. Don't wanna try to make up dreams just to be seen. I wanna lay here beside you, all quiet. Fire breath and open sky. It's not what we know, it's where we go. I grow wings and tell her goodbye. Oh, it's not what we see, it's what we choose to be. grass and bare feet. Oh, but you each second is a treat. I keep my balance next to you. It's true, nowadays there's nothing I would.
So I've dug up 2 bunches of the kale, different kales. This one, the Tuscan, should grow larger than this one. You never know, but so I'm just going to separate these off like so. And these I think will be the taller ones. So what I'll do is I'll plant these well in the back in here. Get a nice row of them, and with brassicas always firm them in well. And I punched them in. So we got the Tuscan there, and these other ones will go at the front here. So I'll end up with 2 lines of kale, which are my backup for the kale that's out the front there. So we'll have the 2 lines right the way through this bed. Brilliant. So I've got 1 crop in, the tomatoes, and they're cropping and I'm harvesting from them, and they're going to be in here for quite some time yet. But in the meantime, these kale are now starting to make this their home, and I've got this double row, this one at the front and one in between the 2 rows of tomatoes back there. And when the tomatoes come out, I'll just snip them off at the base so that I'm not disturbing the ground where these kale are, and take the canes away, and or even leave the canes to support these with if they need it. But this then becomes a backup for the kale outside. So I'm always thinking ahead. That's where your head's got to be as a gardener if you can. It's not always easy when you're first starting off, I appreciate that, but if you can start to think about your next crop and where you're going to put it, and if you can start to think about next spring, which is where my head is currently at, is the changes that I'm going to make for next spring already that are forming in my head, and there's quite a few that I need to make life easier and to make the crops better. So that's done, that's happy with that. I can now empty that brassica seed bed, and that bed can then be used for something else. So again, it's just moving stuff on and trying to be ahead of the game if you can. It's not always easy. But anyway, that's it for today. Look after yourselves, everyone. Please stay safe, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Ta-ra now. Fantastic.